The Manley vari-mu. My God, every mastering studio has one. Or at least many mastering studios have them. Big mastering studios have them. Big records have been used with it. And it's a real staple, and it's what attracted me to buying one when I set up my mastering studio, which probably isn't the best predecessor to purchasing something, because that unit and I have a very funny relationship where sometimes we get along, sometimes we love each other, and sometimes we hate each other. And I want to go a little bit over why, and sort of my thoughts about the unit, and so you guys can have a bit of insight. Now, why am I making this video? Yesterday I was actually meant to make this video in the middle of a session because I was using it and I was in love with what this Manley was doing, because I got this Manley with a mid-side mod, and it's a mod which I rarely use, but over the last maybe 6 months I've been using a little bit more than I have in the past. Maybe 1 in every 10-15 sessions I'm using that mid-side mod. And the reason being is because people are getting really weird and creative with the way they produce music, with the way they use the stereo fields, and having access to be able to compress the stereo fields can sometimes really help me achieve a really great sound on a master. So, a little bit more context than just that generalization. Yesterday's record, the snares were purely stereo. So they were just out in the sides cutting, and it sounded awesome on the mix, but when I was listening to it and where I was making the vocals sort of sit, which the vocals were right up in the middle, it sort of, because I was so far out the side, it made the vocals feel like they were a bit further back than what they should have been, and it sort of was a bit of a warped relationship, and I didn't feel like it was going to translate well at all when it left the studio. So I used the mid-side mod on the Manley. I actually made 2 masters. I did a stereo master and where the whole chain was just stereo, and I was just sort of trying to manage the side signal with EQ, and then I did a second version where I used the mid-side compression using the Manley vari-mu, and that really helped me along, because what I was able to do was actually compress the snares out the side that were poking and making those vocals feel further back, compress them, sort of make sure the transients are a bit more tame, a bit more consistent, a bit more favorable to what was going on in the center of the mix, to create a really great master. So that's more context to why I used that mid-side mod in that situation. And as I said, I'm a bit disappointed. I wanted to make this video in the middle of the session yesterday, sorry, and I just didn't because I was under the pump and I couldn't. So that's the mid-side mod. Now, my relationship with this unit, it's really interesting. Again, classic compression unit. People hear it, they love it, they use it, they love it, and some people don't. And I tend to work with a lot more contemporary electronic pop, EDM music, and this compressor isn't super fast, okay? It isn't super slow either, but it's just like a really good staple compressor which can tighten things up and just give things a bit of glue, a bit of warmth. Nothing that's going to really be super, like I had the SSL compressor, the one that high voltage audio does, their version of it with the I think it's got a high pass sidechain filter on it and stuff like that, and that was awesome for electronic music because, you know, when you got lots of big bass and you need really fast attack times, it worked really well. Whereas this doesn't have those features. It's a lot more of your bread and butter sort of stuff, not the sort of, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of other compressors, except it does have one thing. So yes, I can't, sorry, have super fast compression with it, or be able to tame huge low end. You know, going through that unit, I tend to avoid using it if I've got a big sub or something and I don't want to lose that. However, it gives a lot of like harmonic depth, and having that mid-side mod on it really levitates its game, because then I can access information I couldn't otherwise using other compressors. Those are my thoughts on the unit. Now, looking back in hindsight, would I get that unit? Maybe, maybe not. At the time I bought it, there wasn't anything like the high voltage audio SSL comp that was sort of out there. There are a few other units similar, but they didn't have the mid-side mod, and it's actually really funny, the mid-side sort of thing, because I don't use it a lot, but it was just something I was sort of really focused on at the time, because I was just coming out of an assistant position where the engineer I worked with sort of introduced me to mid-side processing, and I was like all over it. But then as I sort of went down the the rabbit hole of mastering more and more records, I realized that mid-side is something that you use when you really, really have to, and really, really need to, not because you want to, because there are a lot of trade-offs that happen when you are processing a mix using mid-side processing, and that cannot always be to the benefit of the record. So yeah, just me ranting, just my thoughts about that unit. Maybe for you guys, what you guys can take from this is when you're purchasing a unit, when you're trying to think of tools and equipment to have around you to use, is to, what is the lesson? The lesson is just to love what you have, I guess. Because, again, as I said, it's a love-hate relationship I've had with this unit. I've had it for over 5 years now. And that love-hate relationship has just sort of blossomed into understanding when I need it and when I don't. And I think that's more important than thinking that I have to use it all the time. And for you guys, same deal. If you have a love-hate relationship with a piece of equipment, or you buy something, doesn't mean you have to always use it. You just have to know when and when not to use it. That is 6 minutes of pure rant. Guys, take care.